Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the Turntable with Shiki, Ari Styles, and D Money on Active FM, where radio has never been better.
Yes, I'm Ari Styles, and this is the turntable where we keep things, when you get you learned and keep things turned.
And I'm D-Money, and we will be bringing you the facts and playing you the tracks.
You need to trademark your statements, I've just said.
Today we got another exciting show for you.
Well, so seeing this is Women's Month, we are bringing you a month of focusing and shining the light on and talking about and giving you deep dives into the females within hip-hop, within Christian hip-hop, within the landscape of the culture.
Yeah.
Although they deserve more than just a month, because this is Women's Month, we're giving it to you for the month.
And if you, after hearing the show, you're going to realize how important was women in the structure of hip hop. I think they were put in the back, they were put behind. They weren't really highlighted as they should, that much as they should. And I hope after you listen to us, you watch us on YouTube, you listen to us, you'll get a fair knowledge of that
The importance.
Like we did the origins, this is the origins where we're gonna start.
The inception or the origins?
Origins.
If it's a female, it's artificial inception. It's called getting pregnant without a man.
All right. Who can tell me between D and Shiki? That's why I'm asking the question.
Yeah.
Right? Who was the first ever female?
Well, I
MC?
can see your phone, so
No,
it's
besides
Sharrock.
Sharrock.
He's cheating.
We got
he's
it.
cheating. He's cheating.
Don't keep your phone open and ask me a question.
Okay, yeah, but anyway, yeah, MC Sharrock is highlighted as the one of the. Is actually the first. She's called she's considered the first female rapper, and she's a government name is Sharon Green. She was born in 1962. She goes by the name of MC Sharrock. She's titled the mother of the mic.
Not the mother of dragons.
No, the mother of the mic. The reason why they call her the mother of the mic is because I know when we spoke about origins, right? We spoke about DJ Kulak and DJ Das. She was when DJ Kulak came into existence, started at block parties. She was part of that. How can I say? She was that circle. We spoke about b-boying and everything. She, at that specific time, while DJ Kulak was DJing, she was doing the breakdance. She was busy breakdancing. Started rapping.
So she was part of the inception and the original pioneering crew.
She's part of the pioneering.
She's from the 70s. Like she started off in the 70s from South Bronx. So she's also, so like you said, she's a B-girl, breakdancer. So she's been in the culture since the 70s.
She embodies more than just the element of MCing. A few more than.
Yeah, she is basically one of the, like you can say, founders. We spoke about founders' origins.
But she's not a founding father. She's a founding mother.
Founding mother, right? Her hip hop crew called the Funky 4+1, right?
I remember that.
Right. The first ever hip hop group that was on TV.
Yeah.
They don't not
Well,
existed.
I mean, you know what I mean.
But it was on TV.
She was the +1.
She was the +1, right? It was on the SNL Live, right? And even people like notable rappers like MC Light, credit DMC from Run DMC, says now she's played a major influence in their style of rap. They created something called, Run DMC created something called Echo Chamber. It's a certain rapping style, right? Okay, and then we're speaking about the importance of women.
But cooking and cleaning.
No. The importance of women I'm talking about now, I'm talking strictly hip hop, right?
Oh. Cooking and cleaning for hip hop artists.
For hip hop artists, right? The way I'm talking about why we say cooking and cleaning for hip hop artists is no. I know you're talking nonsense, but I'm metaphor. What I'm using a metaphor. Yeah, I'm using a metaphor, right? If it wasn't for if you heard of a song called Sugar Hill, we spoke about it earlier about Sugar Hill Gang, Rapper's Delight, right? If it wasn't by the founding member, which is for Sugar Hill Records, which is Sylvia Robinson, hip hop wouldn't be.
So they were signed to a label.
They were signed to a label. She orchestrated.
Put the group together. From MC Kes.
No,
what's his name?
No,
Grandmaster Kes.
No, she never get. It's the one of the guy that I can't remember his name.
The fat one.
He mentioned he meets her at she meets him at I think it was a butchery or a shop,
And puts the group together.
and then she hears him rapping in the shop, and she puts puts them together. If it wasn't for, so we don't give women the props that they actually deserve.
Okay, in
Because if
terms
it
of
wasn't-
that, it's because basically it was the first crossover record, the first record that played on radio,
Yeah.
played on TV. Basically took hip hop into the next stage, the next level, evolved it from just the underground genre that was played in the parks to actually
Yeah.
coming somewhat commercial. Not commercial at that point, but somewhat in the next stratosphere.
Yeah.
And if she didn't put that together, that record don't exist, and hip hop don't have the same
Ye-
trajectory. that it
Yeah,
did.
because prior as you were saying, prior to that, people weren't taking hip hop that seriously. You had
It wasn't looked at as a sustainable genre.
yeah,
It was looked
yeah.
at as a fad that would disappear.
yeah. So at that time we had the Funky 4+1, the Furious Fives, but it wasn't the Melly Mel's, but it wasn't that focus up until she founded this group, and that's when everything went into right. Then there was a 14-year-old girl by the name of Roxanne Shante. Stage name is Roxanne Shante. She used to battle basically. She was a battle rapper, right? She used to basically she was a female artist at that time, battling against guys, right? She came into it, how she became prominent. If you heard the song Roxanne's Revenge, how it started was Mali Mal because of battling.
He knew
Across.
she could rap, right?
Yeah.
And there was, I think there's a group called UTFO.
Beautiful. That
So they had a song basically speaking about this
Roxanne.
metaphorical girl named Roxanne.
Roxanne, yeah.
Roxanne, yeah. Saying basically she does this and that. It was kind of what's the word? It was disrespectful towards females
towards
and that
females.
specific, but it was a metaphorical song. They were obviously basing it on a specific person. She then adopted the persona or the name of Roxanne in order to respond to that record and
Yeah.
speak about it from a female's perspective and her side.
Yeah, it was,
And that's what basically
yeah.
blew that up.
It was necessarily it wasn't actually a name Roxanne.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
She just adopted it
She
from
just
that
adopted
record.
because Marimal said, okay, just do a free.
Call it Roxanne's Revenge and the name stuck.
Yeah, and the name stuck, and it's a complete. That's how the Roxanne was started.
Because probably the Roxanne record wasn't even about a girl named Roxanne. They might have changed the name.
Yeah,
And her response basically created who she is
and
Roxanne Shante.
it created the Roxanne. Basically, the Roxanne was. Yeah, and then from there, she entered like a battle. It was a battle competition.
A MC battle.
MC
a
that was
rap,
basically
a rap battle.
A rap battle, basically. Yeah, a MC
Not
battle.
how you know it in today's format. It would have been different back then.
Yeah,
but
yeah. So, because she being the only female in that arena,
Competition.
that competition,
They couldn't let her win.
they couldn't let her win, and her name was put against 12 guys. So if it was
She had to beat every single
she had
one.
to beat
Just one of them had to beat her.
yeah, because they wanted they wanted it to lose. They did
So it was
because-
stated in that time basically that hip hop was just starting to get respected. It was just starting to blow up. It was starting to move into the next level and be grow a little bit bigger. So at that point in time, remember we live in a different generation now than what it was back then. At that point in time, they looked at it that a female could not come in and win a best MC, a best rapper competition. It had to have been a male at that point in time and someone that was respected within the community. Hence, she wasn't able to win that. It was obviously a level of misogyny in there, but that's basically was the times and the environment
That's
of
how
it.
it was, yeah, back in the day.
Yeah. And then it went on from there with Roxanne Shante, and then basically a group, female group as
Oh,
well.
before you just leave Roxanne Shante, she is arguably the even though we spoke about MC Sharo, she's the first in terms of where females were respected as MCs, as lyricists, as rappers.
The first.
She was going toe to toe and bar for bar with the
Against.
best in the game at that point in time and inspired a lot of other females and males to come behind her.
Yeah. So one of the members that she inspired, right? Because of greatness, right? A group. I'm gonna ask before I go into it. I'm gonna ask the guys a question, right? Who created sex appeal or sexual content for female hip hop artists?
Salt and pepper.
Thank you. Yeah. So Salt and Pepper.
Nine.
And then they also accredited Roxette Shante, influencing them, inspired them. They took some of her battle style and mixed it with their style.
With their style.
Yeah,
With their
and
content.
With their content, yeah.
In terms of that was pioneering because they were the first to have basically become prior to them the female MCs that came out were somewhat tomboyish mainly. They were the first to have basically have a feminine aspect to them and speak about things from a female aspect and have I don't know if I can say that on radio, but they have more of a female appeal and speak from their perspective. What then people gravitated to, and then later on you get it was taken to a whole other level. But they were the first, like we spoke a few shows ago about Lil Kim being the influence of the people that you get today.
Yeah.
They were actually did it obviously not to the extent that Kim took it, and not the persona and the image, but just from a lyrical standpoint and a content standpoint. And records like Push It Good and what's the other one? Let's talk about all of those type of stuff. So they were the first to actually do this from a feminine standpoint. And then you got obviously Kim, Foxy Browns, and then the generation we have today. The unfortunate reality is what you have going on today is everybody, all the well, not all, but the really popular ones, and female MCs and rappers and artists and whatever, is all speaking about the exact same thing in the exact same way in a hypersexualized. That's basically the entire persona of the female artists today. Now, if you really doing that, and that's how you really feel, that's fine. But not all of them can really be doing that and feeling like it. That's what they got going on. That's what they're all rapping about. That's their images, their persona, the entire thing. And even though there is people like Rhapsody who's phenomenal and doesn't rap about that type of stuff, and not only her, there's a slew of other female rappers that is doing something else. Those are the ones that are winning. Now you can trace their roots back to the fact that Salt and Pepper pushed and went through those doors first and opened those doors for people like Lil Kim to come after and Foxy Brown and things like that. But then they all fruit of that tree, but they've taken it to a whole other level.
Yeah, a different level. Okay, so as we go through, we do our first with Christian hip hop. Also, we also highlight Christian hip hop. So the first ever female, I wouldn't say the first ever female rapper, Christian rapper, right? Because this is just the first female rapper that was signed to a record label. Was a rapper called MC Jenny. Name is Jenny Lopez, or maiden surname is Rodriguez, who was the sister of Danny D Boy Rodriguez. Also, one of the founding members of Christian hip hop, Danny D Boy Rodriguez, who was accidentally shot, and after that, because of his influence in her life, she started going into rapping, and Frontline, which was signed to Frontline Records, and because she was signed to Frontline Records, she was basically the first female MC signed to a label and having a album debuted in 1990, which was called I'm For Real. So it was basically, that album was, as I said, under a brother's influence. It had to be at the time before his death. He was mentoring her, and he helped her create that album, right? And at that time, like we spoke, female MCs wasn't that publicized and promoted, right? And what her genre being in Christian hip hop also. I remember it was also just still in its phase,
its infant stages.
Yeah, it's in infant stages. And then in 1991, she released a second album. That's after her brother's death, which was called "And Mission Continues," right? That was, and then after that album, basically she stopped rapping,
but she was
making music.
The first one.
But she was the first. Yeah, not first. It's not first, basically signed, but it's the
well,
first.
The unfortunate reality is unsigned artists during that time wouldn't have made it out to the masses.
Yeah.
It's not like today where you can be an independent and still
get known, be known. Yeah. So I think we're gonna.
Yeah.
So let's 1 second. Before you get into the artist focused on the week, we can't just gloss over Queen Latifah coming from the native tongues, bringing in Moni Love, that type of thing. That she had a record called Ladies First and UNITY. which even though
I thought you were gonna sing it for Shiki.
you and I don't know the rest of the words. Right. But she had a record with Moni Love, Ladies First, and then UNITY, which was basically unity between females and speaking about it. We can't have this episode with just not mentioning it at all.
Yes.
Definitely. Okay, so this week we're gonna focus on artists, our focus artist in the Christian hip hop scene. We're gonna bring you Jamie Grace. So Jamie Grace is an American contemporary Christian musician, singer, rapper, songwriter, and actress. She's from Atlanta, Georgia. That is actually a government name. And then she was actually signed to Toby Mac. He actually found her on YouTube, and he was signed to his Goatee Records. She did 2 albums. She also, like in somewhat a music style is combines of elements of hip hop and pop into one distant sound. She occasionally uses elements of like guest vocalists such as Toby Mac and Diversity. And then she does have 2 albums, one which is One Song at a Time, and the other one is Ready to Fly, which was released on Goatee Records.
Yeah, and then she was basically she's nominated for. Just let me see. She won a Dove Award.
Ye-
And she's nominated. She was nominated for the song "Hold Me" featuring Toby Mac,
Yeah.
right? She's nominated for a Grammy for Best Contemporary Christian Music Song, and in the Dove Award she was nominated 3 times, and she won one as New Artist of the Year.
Okay, so now we're back to Ari's favorite parts of the show. Can you tell us what's happening?
Shiki, can I start? Or
I just wanted to just mention something prior to you getting into TWIHHH, because that's basically where we end off, and then we're going to a closing. In terms of the importance of females in hip hop, right? We got to look at the growth in the existence and it being as widespread and as big as it is today. I know usually you find a way every show to bring this particular person into the show, but I'm actually doing it this time just to make a point. Hip hop has become the biggest genre in the world, the most popular genre in the world, right? Without the existence of example for an Eminem, it doesn't get there. Because it was predominantly a male art form, a black male and Latino art form. Eminem comes into play, he sells millions of records, become extremely popular. He brings in a different fan base of maybe white people, rock and alternative fans that wouldn't necessarily have been hip hop fans. He brings them over into hip hop because he becomes so popular. Which then, I don't know if he gets credited for this or he doesn't, which inadvertently helped the culture grow bigger or into is what it is today. Because him by bringing it in and being so popular and bringing in these other fan bases in, makes it grow and gets bigger. Right, so he's either credited by some people for that and is not by other people, but it has assisted in it in becoming what it is today.
can make it larger than life.
The females within hip hop got to get credited for that as well, because prior to them was a very male dominated industry. The fan base might have been females. The woman might have not listened based on the fact that they felt there was no inclusion and no representation for them. But then when they came in and spoke to something relatable, what they could understand, where they could come from, something maybe not so aggressive or not so degrading to females, it then brought them in. So which also assisted in growing the culture and making it what it is today. I just wanted to draw that comparison so you could see the importance of the females in that.
And just for our listeners to know, I did not mention Eminem once today.
My point was just throwing a... I was just making a point.
This was not a chance for you to get into Eminem. Ari.
No, I didn't. This time I never find a way.
It's about the feminine.
I didn't have to. I don't have to. What's it called? Anyway, I'm just not gonna get into it. Let me go to my favorite part. It's this past week in hip hop history. Anyway, DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince released their 4th album, Home Base, in July 1991. Main Source in July 1991 released their debut album, Breaking Atoms, which was Main Source. If you know Large Professor, is part of that group. Pharrell Williams releases his solo album, In My Mind, in July 2006. And Pharrell Williams comes, if you heard that song from Rex and Effects, from
T's favorite song.
from Terry Riley, Rex and Effects, Ram Shaker. He contributed to the production
and the writing of that song.
Yeah. Bone Thugs and Harmony released a 2nd album, in 99, called Eternal, July 1995.
I would just like to go back to this. You didn't say Bone Thugs released their album. You said Bone Thugs and Harmony. So last week that point when you said
No,
Bone
I
Thugs and
won.
said
I
Bone
won.
Thugs and Harmony,
No,
should
I
have
did
got
change
On
the
a
point.
technicality, we have to give it to Shiki.
No, I'm not saying anything. We got it together. don't
Keep
worry
the
about it.
harmony.
We keeping the harmony. We both got it together. July 1986, Two Life Crew released their debut album. Crew is what's it called? Is what we are.
Okay, now you see, we were speaking about the importance of women. We spoke about Eminem. We spoke about all these other things. Two Life Crew has to be mentioned in the fact that this culture still exists and is still prominent, and they still
Yeah.
allowed. People are still allowed to say what they want to say, how explicitly.
Because they fought it.
They were obviously, they had their videos. If you've seen any Two Life Crew's videos, it's borderline pornographic. NWA was going through their things with lyrics, so was. And they went to
Life Crew.
court and fought the case.
Mm.
And they were the first people to put that warning explicit sign on
Yeah.
the albums. And they fought the government and won it in terms of
Freedom
speech.
of speech.
So which allowed them to continue saying what they're doing and doing how they're doing it, and the NWAs and all of that. So nothing exists today without Two Life Crew.
Which allows us to say what we want to say.
Not really.
Anyway, Beastie Boys released their second album, Paul's Boutique, in July 1989. Eric B. and Rakim released their second album, Follow the Leader, in July 1988. Fat Joe releases his debut solo album, Represent in July 1993. If you know the song Flow Joe,
It's from there.
it's from that album.
People know Fat Joe for the hits.
Yeah.
And for
Bringing
Lean
in Pan.
Back, and what is the recent one?
All the way up.
And he got a few of those. And
There's other one, So Excited, where samples hit them up.
yeah, and there's one with him and Wayne. Like, they know him for the hits, and he generationally has put hits. But Fat Joe actually started as an underground artist. Before Big Pun, Fat Joe was an extremely underground artist, like with Flo Joe and things
Yeah.
like it.
The Hot Boys released a second studio album, Guerrilla Warfare, in July 1999.
Lil
And
Wayne might be the biggest, one of the biggest artists in the world right now, but a lot of people don't know he come from the
he come from the end Juvenile.
Well, Juvie got one right.
Yeah.
Juve is
EPMD.
old now. He's no more juvenile. He's now felon.
Oh, okay. Good one. EPMD released their fourth album, Business Never Personal, in July 1992. Bone Thugs and Harmony released their third album, The Art of
and who?
Bone Thugs
Yeah.
released their third album, The Art of War, July 1997. I'm just saying that because I won that point and I get it by default. Malik Bassett, better known as Malik B, formerly of The Roots, passed away in 29 July 2020. Rest in peace. Then that was it for this past week in hip hop history.
You enjoy your segment, Ari.
I enjoy the segment because it's this past week in hip hop history.
Okay, guys, so that was the show for today.
I hope all these women know their place.
And I hope every person knows the importance of women in hip hop.
How's the artist gonna perform if he's hungry, if no one cooks for him?
Yeah, and they cooked it.
Anyway,
And they started it, yeah.
Um,
We were part of the pot.
that was a show this week on Active FM, where radio has never been better, with Shiki, Ari Styles, and D-Money.
And remember, we keep you learned and get you turned.
So we're going to leave you with a verse which comes from 2 Corinthians 4 verse 16. Therefore we do not lose heart, though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day.